Why is African yoga deeper? Because it deals with the elements. Because it deals with elemental awareness, which is fundamental to everyone on this planet. So the elements, earth, water, air and fire, was in existence before there was physical body. So everything was flowing movement. Anything that is physical had some form of vibration and flowing movements without structure, without posture. That is why when you're talking about alignment and creation of geometric shapes, before that there was free form flowing motion. So with going back to Temenu, perpetual motion, and Temunet, ceaseless motion. So this is prior to primordial, back to Nun, the chaotic waters, the cosmic waters, the primordial form. Nun doesn't just mean water and sea. It breaks down, or it goes back to potential. That's what Nun means. So potential is what the Ogdogs came out of, the Neteru, Ra, Atum, Nefertem, young Atum, came out of the waters of Nun. And then creation began. And then they began to produce the Enyads, or the Neteru. So the Neteru fathered people on the planet, and from the people came pharaohs. So when we talk about Tamares Maitawi, African yoga, we're really focused more on the people, the farmers, the fishermen. So we're going before pharaonic period. When we talk about geometric shapes, we're talking about lines, straight forms that look very solid. And Tamares Maitawi, African yoga, it has that. It has that too, because that's what also makes it holistic. But it also has the free flowing forms, which goes back to the primordial forms. And this is what makes Tamares Maitawi, African yoga, very distinct. So when I'm dealing with the method, Pablo Imani method of African yoga, pimay is really delving into that areas. So inside myself, my inner being is like a jellyfish. Lots of tentacles, lots of colors. And when I close my eyes, I see colors. And in most people, that's just how they are. And the movement that the inner body makes is fluid. It's free flowing. So when you do water movement, that comes out. It shows itself when you're doing fire movement. that energy begins to express itself. When you're doing air movement, that energy expresses itself. And this is what I'm saying when it comes to the difference of Tamaris Maitawi African yoga. That's how you're going to see their expression. I may express the cosmic forces in a certain way according to how I engage with the elements through myself and according to my knowledge and according to my experience. And it's not so much about the knowledge, it's more to do with your feeling. It's more to do with your feeling. So remember, when you're doing free flowing forms, it's never really about your knowledge. It's all about your experience of it, of the cosmic forces. It's all about your feeling around it, your feeling within it, your feeling of it. So even though I will instruct and show technique, but I will also encourage ones to be free in the movement. Of course, it's important to have technique, and people need technique. They need that foundation, especially adults. But at the same time, working with children is really beautiful because you give them a foundation and grounding. But once they got that foundation, you can just be free. So it's like learning a musical instrument. You're learning the notes, you're learning the chords, and then you learn different chord progression. And what you're doing is building on a foundation. And then after you've got all of that, you're free to express yourself. So to understand the difference between Tamaris Maitawi and the other branches of yogas, and the various branches of yogas that come out of Africa, or have a claim of an African basis, you have to look a little bit deeper at the differences. What does it feel like to you? It's really about the emotive element, more than a mental element. So what does it feel like? And I'm more of the feeling rather than of the intellectual capacity, and that is one of the specific differences. There's a combination of martial arts involved, and it has that look and feel of some martial arts elements within it. But that's of course coming from my experience and my background. It's always going to be something that's involved. It's always going to be something that's a part of it, integrated within it. And there seems to be this need for these kind of free-flowing movements that's giving freedom to the practice, to yogic practice, allowing people to open up their bodies in a different way, or allowing them to engage in how we used to engage with our bodies, how we used to just flow with it, but at the same time using breath and movement in order for that to happen. As far as African yoga goes, or Tamaris Maitawi, it is constantly evolving. It is part of the evolution of the practice. It's part of the evolution of yoga. Even though it has ancient roots, it's also very new and today, and futuristic too. It's part of that expansion. There are people out there that saying, well, it's not quite yoga or whatever, but really, ones are finding out that there is a need for these forms, and there are ones that are holding on to an old ideology of what yoga should be or what it's supposed to be, etc. But it's not being realistic in the sense of as we move from day to day forward or into the various dimensions of expansion, it's going to change. Things will change. Forms will change, and there's no point holding on to old systems because it's going to change. It has to. That's the ultimate reality. We call this nebeche. The divine law is change. So nebeche is constant, and this has to come about. And Tamaris Maitawi, it will expand, it will grow, and it will change. It's going to move beyond Pablo. Of course, it's going to move beyond Pablo, and someone else will probably come and expand it. This is just the way it is, and I'm aware of that. And it, for me, is being realistic. Okay, so as I sit here now, knowing, being more and more aware of this reality, in this time, my understanding of African yoga is simply structure and free form. That's pretty much the philosophy. Structure, free form.